Donna Kane. What can I say about Donna Kane? I met Donna when she was studying with Lorna Crozier at UVic, and I had no idea that she'd been such a phenomenal arts administrator. Donna established Writing on the Ridge, a nonprofit society, art society in Northeast BC. She organised the first writer in residence program at Northern Lights College. She created the Mobley Lake writing retreats with Patrick Lane, Don Mackay, and Jan Zwicky. And she co-founded the Arts Festival of Sweetwater Moon and also the Musqueam Kichika Artists Camp. Wow. So I think she's like the only one who understands how hard my job is and how delightful. Donna Kane's poems, short fiction, reviews, and essays have been widely published in prestigious journals and anthologies, both literary and scientific. And they're the recipient of many awards and contests. The list is long. She's published 4 books of poetry. Somewhere a Fire and Erratic were both finalists for the Relit Award. I'm going to pronounce this wrong.
Orrery.
Orrery. Thank you so much, Donna. Orrery was a finalist for the Governor General's Literary Award. And also an excerpt from Orrery was published by Jack Pine Press. Donna received the Aurora Award of Distinction of Arts and Culture for her contributions to the arts in the Peace Liard area, and then received an honorary associate arts degree from Northern Lights College. And she also received the British Columbia Medal of Good Citizenship for her exceptional dedication to discover community potential and empower ownership through arts and culture. Donna divides her time between Rolla, BC and Halifax, Nova Scotia, and tonight she's reading from her new collection, Asterisms. Please welcome Donna Kane.
Thank you, Kieran, and Russell Books and Harbour Publishing. And it's just so great to be here, and so many faces that I recognize from the time I was 50 years old when I decided to come to UVic to get my undergrad finally. And those were the best 2 years of my life. And yeah, it was so great to see so many of my fellow students here tonight. And of course, Lorna Crozier, she was the very first person. She was why I started all this arts administration, because I wanted Lorna to come up to the north, and then it just kind of got away on me. but yeah, I remember I'm like, of all the poets in Canada, who am I going to invite? It was like, it's got to be Lorna, because I'll always remember going to the public library, seeing Inventing the Hawk, and she was writing about prairie life and farming, and it was like, whoa, yeah, it changed my life. And so I contacted her out of the blue, and I said, we have an art gallery that used to be a grain elevator, and it's quite a bit like Saskatchewan. And she just immediately said yes, because she's so amazing. And probably everybody here has some connection to Lorna that has changed their life, and also to Patrick for sure. Yeah, we all miss so much. Okay, and I'm so glad I'm reading ahead of Matt. Like, holy man! We read in Vancouver, and that's when I started to read Fine, and it is remarkable. I keep going to a poem and saying, okay, this is my favorite one, and then I find another one, and no, this one. But the Copenhagener Street 15. Oh, those last 2 stanzas are killers. Yeah, yeah, I highly recommend. So the first poem I'm going to read is called The Artemis Program, or My Last Moon Poem. And for those who might not know what the Artemis Program is, it was created by NASA to put humans long-term on the moon. And eventually they will probably use it as a launch pad to Mars if they are successful in that. And when I first heard about it, I was devastated, because I thought the moon is one thing that each of us can look at in our own way, project our own thoughts on it. And the moon, we may be changed by the moon is not changed by us. And to me, that's a great comfort, that there's something that we can engage in that we're not going to impact. So yeah, so this is Artemis program, or my last moon poem. Hey, big round of cheese, ejectum from some ancient collision. Listen up, we're headed your way, and this time we're bringing pajamas. If you're sick and tired of moon poems, this is your lucky day. Once we've staked our claim on you, you'll be no different to those still here on Earth than looking across a prairie so open we can see all the way to Alberta. We'll look up and mostly wonder, who's on you? Who's brushing their teeth, setting their clocks, bickering over unwashed cups? You'll cease to be our expansive gaze, imagination's room of its own. I know we've weeded out wonder before, but this one takes a cake, or should I say, pizza pie. Pigs. I was surprised to learn pigs have the capacity to dream their own language, can recognize their name at 2 weeks, sing to their babies. I'm not surprised by now that we can slice their head in two, the temporal bone excellent for training in human ear surgery, that their valves work in the human heart remains surprising. Did you know a pig will eat a human, leaving only their dentures behind? Did you know that humans will eat pigs, leaving only their ears, though sometimes those too, if they use a kitchen torch to remove the hairs, then scrub them like the ears of children, boil, slice, fry. Some scientists say the similarity between humans and pigs is mostly happenstance, not a sign of close ancestry, not as if we are family. And as Kieran mentioned, I now spend my fall, winter in Halifax. I have a little house in the North End, so I can be near my daughter and my grandchildren. And so some of the poems in here sort of were inspired while living in Halifax, and then other, all my life really, I've lived in Northeast BC. And so the natural world is inspired by that place. So this one is from living in Halifax, a little event that happened. And it's called Cleaning Up Before We Go. It's like wearing clean underwear should the paramedics fail to revive us. The dishcloth folded over top the spout of the kitchen faucet, the puckered cushion propped just so on our favorite chair. Don't we all want to present our best selves when we leave so everyone will know we cared? But look at us, Jesus. The unprecedented winds knocked over a trash can and there's shit up and down the street. Wet wipes and granola bar wrappers, plastic straws and Timmy cups. The streetlights are throwing moss off course and no one's sleeping. They're putting toe tags on birds, whacking our high rises. We're like toddlers, 4.5 billion years, and you can't leave us alone for 6 million. I'm going into my 5th summer of sleeping on my deck in Raleigh, and it's probably a bit like the moon in that when I sleep outside, I don't feel like I'm impacting the world any more than just stimuli, and it's just a wonderful experience to be part of that world as a sort of laying down observer, and so this comes from those experiences. On silence. If one thing must relate to another for meaning to cohere, you don't want to be alone in the world, except I do, especially on summer nights when I lie on my back, look up at the sky and listen to the dark until I feel myself as silence, the silence between a caragannapod snapping and a dried begonia blossom falling to the deck, between the swirls of sparrow song and each star as it appears. It is then I feel I can know the world, the way music can be disclosed only by the silence between each note and the silence before and after. September, thinking of the worker wasp I crashed into this summer. Intent on crumpling flecks of weathered deck inside your mouth, you launched from your planet of ribbon pulp, just as I, interstellar object on a mission to a glass of wine, crossed your flight path. Wallop to you, sting to me. Your venom, exciting my pain receptors, my cheek swelling like your nest, which kept growing from the inside out. I thought of doing you in, but season's end comes soon enough. Amphoras of spit emptying out their hearts. Is that you, dragging your starving husk across the floor? Here, drink this sugared water. Each of us takes that final breath, exhales, we hope, sated. And this was called, Can You Give Me My Little Skull? My senses are trick-or-treaters, gathering stimuli that my brain, like any good mother, checks out first, deciding what I can have. Yes, to the man with the wiener dog walking past my house. No to the pigeons leaving tracks in the snow, to bells ringing the hour at the memorial tower. Such a theory suggests I am missing a lot. I suppose I am, though I suspect I'm partly to blame. I believe in carrying the burdens of the world, but sometimes I need to lie down and close my eyes for just a moment. Tonight, the brain gave me an idea, sweet as a molasses kiss, but when I reached my journal, the thought was gone. I know I was given something before it disappeared, but you can't ask the brain. She's head down, rummaging through the chaos, unwrapping, then tossing me each approved thing like she never needs to see it again. And Trish read, is it Trish or Trisha? And yeah, Trisha. You read an amazing poem, which is quite similar to the next one I'm going to read, but mine perhaps is not as good. But it's called The Incredible Hulk. And for those who don't, or too young, The Incredible Hulk was a TV show for a while where Bruce Banner was a scientist infected with gamma radiation. And every time he got stressed out or angry, he would like turn into a huge green monster. So this is called The Incredible Hulk. Like that marvel of science, Bruce Banner, who watches his body expand, buttons popping from his shirt, disclosing the Hulk. So I watch my body fall apart, disclosing time. Both Bruce and I, unwitting and without a cure. But does the Hulk, once disclosed, also disclose Bruce Banner? Does time, once disclosed, also disclose me? They say music discloses the fabric of the universe, but is not the universe. So there's that, I say to my friend. The two of us are discussing old television shows and time's passage, drinking cider from apples that fell to the ground, disclosing gravity. Though it's not so much the apples that fell, my friend says, as it was the tree that dropped them. All those delicate white blossoms transforming into fruit, swelling until the green apples became too heavy to hold. We agree, something else is afoot, but neither of us can grasp it. And this last poem, which as Wayne pointed out, is appropriate for planet Earth poetry, and it's called Love Poem for Every Animal on Earth. Gravity is a tailor, stitching planets around stars, pearl buttons cinched tight in space, like hearts inside the rib cage of the elephant or the shrew. The elephant or the shrew, the me or the you. The number of heartbeats the same for us all, though some take them fast, some take them slow. What a beautiful rhythm. Can you feel us held together in this world, together in this world? Thank you.
Wow, Donna, thank you so much. I've missed hearing you read, and it's so wonderful to have you here, and your poetry is incredible. Thank you. I kind of want to, I've been sitting there thinking, I need to ask you both to save me a book. So I'm just going to say that now, so I don't have to panic that it's all going to be gone. Tonight, I'm also delighted to welcome Matt Rader. I first met Matt and felt completely in love with his work when I interviewed him at Open Space Gallery. I was a grad student and I was absolutely terrified to interview Matt, especially because he had a book called A Doctor Pedaled Her Bicycle Over the River Arno, and I just thought I was going to screw that up. I didn't want to say the name. But I'm okay tonight because his book is now called Fine. Matt Rader is an award-winning author of 6 volumes of poetry, a collection of stories, and a book of nonfiction. His previous book of poems, Ghosthawk, was shortlisted for the Dorothy Livesay Poetry Prize. Matt's work has appeared in journals and magazines across North America, Europe, and Australia. And he's been nominated for the Gerald Lampert Memorial Award, the Journey Prize, the National Magazine Award, 2 Pushcart Prizes, the Rader Award, and also won the Malahat Review's Jack Hodgkins Founders Award for Fiction. Matt lives in Kelowna, BC, where he teaches creative writing at the University of British Columbia, Okanagan. Please welcome Matt Rader.
Weird, is it? Computer with a hello live stream. Now I'm sort of on it. Can I ignore that? Sorry, guys. It's kind of weird to look out because there are so many people from different. I'm 46 now, and I'm old enough to have people from all kinds of parts of my life. Like a 2 buddies of mine from high school are here. Oh, wow. Like 2 aunts from 2 different sides of the family. Long lost cousin. My peers like Allie and Garth and Melanie and Christine, and my friend Stephen from Comox Valley is here. So and Tara from Comox Valley. One of my grad students is here. We had this great moment where I got to introduce Tosh to Lorna, and Lorna was like, he was the worst student. He was just terrible. I didn't know what to do with him. And then after that conversation, and when Lorna says, I'm going to go say hi to Donna, Tosh said, so it's true, you really were that bad. It's pretty bad. But I do remember this moment where I thought, I wonder what it would take to write a poem Lorna Crozier would like, and that I would also like. There's a version that I can tell this origin story, but it starts with the first time I met Patrick, who he was my very, very first poetry teacher at university, and he was teaching first-year poetry, and he would say things like, I'm never teaching first-year poetry again. But he reminded me of my dad. And I was thought, my dad was a crane operator and a trucker, and my dad's here. He was always a reader. So there was this kind of, there's something it was in Patrick that I remember the last time I saw Patrick, which was the last time I read in Victoria, was at the Victoria Symphony with Patrick and Jack Hodgins. And I told Patrick at the intermission as he was leaving that I didn't know that there was a person alive who was a poet until I met Patrick Lane. Like I didn't know that they walked around and stuff. He told me that he didn't know that there were poets at all. All right, I am going to read poems, but I do want to say to Donna, thank you. It was really a treat to hear the poems again. We had to read together on Wednesday. On a Wednesday, I was a little nervous, and also the stage was weird. So like we were sitting behind the people reading. So I didn't really get to watch Donna's expressions when you were reading. So it was really wonderful to hear those poems again. And I won't repeat the things I said about them before, but the same jokes, I'm not gonna make the same jokes tonight as I did last time, is what I'm trying to say. But I was really jealous of your title, because I feel like I've been thinking about asters for a long time, which is, I know, different, but it's the same word. Star and aster are the same word. And the thing I always think about is that I could stand in a field and look at a star, in the sky, and I can look at an aster in the earth, and I can think of a star aster in my mind, and I've not gone anywhere, but they're all still in one field. And I don't know what that means, but it makes me feel like maybe it's all one continuous thing. This is a poem called Fine. Where I lived, there were still grasslands, but very few. Between the condos and roadways and subdivisions. The grasses, my friend said, were fire in its low entropy state. But fire was no kind of grass. I wanted to say something back then about the synonyms: territory, state, condition. I wanted to make a shift from fire to fine. Its averageness, its elegance, its penalty. Then the helicopters lifted the cold, dark energy of the lake into the sky like a chalice. There was an icon on my phone that looked like a face disguised by smoke. There were masks that helped us breathe by restricting our breathing. There were evenings of no smoke, when we could see for ages across the valley, through all time. Our medicine was medicine, and walking among the drought-stricken yellow cedars, seeing the bodies of people moving through water, especially women, which even then stirred me, also men. Also, not everything had definition, like smoke, fantasies. The third thing I felt too shy to mention. I'd always wanted to be funnier than I was, but verily we laughed, looking for our phones, which we were clutching, looking at pictures of our hair. In those days, we grew tomatoes so sweet and deformed, we called them care. We were aware of a shape we could not regard directly, lurking at the center of things. We will have been that shape, is all we could say truthfully about what we knew. With our hands, we could swim in the museum through screens of digital modeling, unthickened time to see the city before the city, its reeds and waterways, the white outlined specter of buildings hovering above everything, the future anterior, what we were, what we will have been. I'm going to read you a poem called Heat Dome. Gonna dedicate it to Nick in the back, because we have sister poems. He has an atmospheric river poem, and I have a heat dome poem. But also, there's a reference in this poem to my grade 12 poetry class, and I remember this. It was a lit 12, but we mostly, what I remember was talking about poems. And our teacher, Bob Thompson, he made us, we sat in a circle, and we got a big, brought us a big piece of butcher paper, or some kind of roll of paper. And he asked us to draw Kubla Khan. And actually, I draw my students' poems all the time now. And like when I'm talking to them, I'm like, I'll be like, get on the board and I start diagramming out, you know, where the person seeing this is standing, where the things are, you know. And I keep thinking back and back to learning to do that in that class with Mr. Thompson. And I learned a couple of days ago that he passed away very recently, and there's a memorial for him tomorrow in Corny, where I'm actually coincidentally headed. So I want to read this poem, partly for Nick and partly for Bob Thompson. It's called Heat Tone, and it's set in Kelowna. We swam in the lake at 9 a.m. before it grew too hot to be outside. The five of us, 2 divorced parents, our teenagers, my mother. At the little public access next to the stone manor with tennis courts and lakeside infinity pool. I had a spider bite on my hip, the exact pinks of the wildfire smoke-filtered sunlight. In Kermias and Osoyoos and Penticton, the ashes of Catholic churches can't cool. Spider bite sky, rashy light. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, is what I remember most vividly from grade 12 poetry. Infinity is when it never ends. We swam out to the nearest buoy, a white and pink ball on the surface of the lake. We followed its shadowy chain down to a shadowy slab of concrete in the milfoil at 15 feet. What is pleasure without an ending? When the spider bit me, I didn't feel anything. Back on the beach, on our slip of public property, beneath a bower of maple trees, we were cool. How could we be happy, we asked, but we were happy. The spider bite had its own source of heat. It was something inside me. This is for Doug and Josh, who I haven't seen in a long time, but who spent some time on Goose Spit, I think, when we were in our teenage years. And when I was in Vancouver, this guy came up to me afterwards, after the reading, and he said, "Do they still have the big bonfires and drinking parties that the teenagers on Goose Spit?" And I was like, "Well, they did when we were kids," but that was a long time ago now. Yeah, it's almost 30 years ago. So this is set on Goose Spit in the Comox Valley Harbour. There's a HMCS Quadra, like a naval cadet training station out on the end of the spit. Yeah, this is where it's set. And the poem is called Selfie. Out beyond the cadet base firing range, the sea was orgasmic, blinding, totally insane. The heavy pixelated water, the pixelated sand, our bodies pixelated, shredded completely by unfathomable quanta. We didn't exist yet as we'd come to exist. Pure data, light packets. I could still touch things, like the beach face, like the brilliant shattered sea. I had hands, feet, hair on my arms and between my legs. I was a man. My skin was coriander and salt. Ultraviolet radiation was already transforming me, replicating genetic material in my body at alarming rates. I'd misread motion recollected in tranquility. I knew that time was a product of heat, things cooling eventually, a kind of poem with a tale, personal history. I was raised on an island at the western shore of an industrialized nation in the last decades of the 20th century. I can go there even now through a trapdoor in the mirror of my memory. A font of plovers texting themselves across low water, the tide line refreshing itself continuously. Pure impulse, pure signal. I was white in a midden of white things. I was myself, finally, just as a self was something we might cease to be. This book is basically seasonal, like it goes from summer into fall and winter. And I'm going to just read it. I have no idea how long I've been reading for. I didn't make a plan. I'm sorry. I probably should have made a plan, but I didn't. So we'll have to live with that. Okay, I'm going to read you one poem from the fall. This is my true answer to Nicholas Bradley. Atmospheric Moon River. December loomed with its supply chain of moods. The plum tree's last medallions of golden leaves, its riviere of blue light-emitting diodes for Diwali. In my dreams, I could do no violence. No matter how hard I tried, I had no force to execute my attacks. I stomped dream body after dream body, but no one was ever hurt. As if something wanted to remind me, even in my sleep, of my impotence in global affairs. As if something wanted to save me. Western wind, when wilt thou blow? I listened to In a Sentimental Mood nightly. I borrowed a distinction between porn and pornography. Mornings, the moon lowered itself over the western mountains and hung there, golden white against the sky's cool complexion, not even looking at me, but looking at me, if you know what I mean. Tomorrow, sex will be good again is a phrase I read and repeated via text to a colleague working on affect theory in Hungary, a person for whom I had indeterminate feelings. Psychic excess, they called it, quoting Judith Butler Yeats. On the other side of the mountains, a thin river of water poured like grief through the atmosphere, wiping out everything, bridges, hillside, farmland. Only debt survived, barely. I got to thinking how that cameo moon might look on me with my undertones of firebush and raspberry, my cobalt disbelief in money, the thin tremulous needle of futurity that fluttered in all my poetry. I was in an elevator, ascending a glass tower, the floor numbers lighting up like cigarettes in the dark, like parts of my brain when I sang, "The small rain down can rain." Across the province, we gathered, candles and sandbags. We prepared to lose all power. Above the building, beyond the many panels of tempered glass, a tower crane floated in the river of rain. Even then we knew abundance, autumn's harvest of darkness, in which tiny green lights grew like mushrooms along the jib of the crane. Christ, if my love were in my arms and I in my bed again, I heard the wind sing. There's no such thing as an aesthetic death mudslide. Atmospheric moon river, I'm crossing you. If I was a better performer, I would have sung you a little bit of it. I'm just going to read you two more poems. I'm going to read you a poem from the end of winter. I basically, almost all this book was written in 1 year. The first ever sabbatical year of my life. And the first ever, he says so hopefully. The university will be around in a few more years and I'll get another one maybe. So mostly I was just writing what was happening. And one of the things that was happening was that my then 12-year-old kid came out as trans, and we had an unbelievably horrible time at school. Like, just, it was not safe. It ended up, it took about 3 months before we had to take the kid out of school. Actually, my dad was visiting me one day. We were out hiking and we got a phone call that like, then Xylo had left school, and that was the end. That was the last time they went to school. It was March. They're back in school now. So the good news is now they're just in a kind of like grumpy, annoying 15-year-old, like they're supposed to be. But they did really, really well. But in that process, it really like invited all of us to have a conversation, adults in the family and with the kids. But I think in a way between the adults was even more important about our own experiences of gender and our own identity, like how we related to those identities or didn't, you know. And that was generational. Like, it was like my mom and my self and my ex-wife and my all these people in the family. And so I wrote this poem because it's called Pine Martin, and it was my way of like thinking through what that experience was like, and also trying to say something to Xylo about how I'd always felt about them. So this is Pine Martin for Xylo. The teenagers kept changing their names and pronouns, an event in the coding from within which something ambiguous, blurry, and free could be seen emerging. From the very beginning, we didn't know you by your name, only the familiar myriad reflections glinting in your sinewy water animal body. Our own code recoded, our creed, our oath. At the lakeshore, late winter, a pine martin, the color of late winter snow, kept popping up like a new window within which could be glimpsed the lakeshore, white with dark markings. When the motion-activated martin reloaded in a new spot, it watched us like a camera, searchlight eyes panning rapidly across our shadowed bodies for danger, safety. What does it mean to be seen? To be affirmed and confirmed as what you are. The whole schoolyard of boys surrounding you like ice in a dream of thaw. When the martin slipped off its winter-made lake coat and blinked itself out of sight, it transformed into what it always was. The lake shore, the mountains brimming with lake color, the deep watery sky. And since Donna mentioned it, I'll end with Copenhagener, which is a street in East Berlin. And last poem ends with a deep watery sky, and this one begins with the sky. The sky came suddenly close, like a friend with a disclosure of rain. Then, just as suddenly, retreat, drawback, unburdened distance across the bright vaulted sky. And in the aftermath, chestnut blossoms on cobblestone, puddle light in the Mauer Park, finch song. Each window in your courtyard showing its own film of blue sky, clouds. Some things are so poetic, they can't be invented. How in the Hauptbahnhof, when the train gathers to a full stop, you feel yourself drop into the sunk bolt perfect rhyme of your body, as if the difference between what you perceive as your mind and your mind were revealed for an instant, and distance healed. Thank you very much.